the shipping of slaves to Europe and another war horn to be blown. The Otu Okorobịa, which consisted of the youths from different communities in Asaba, came together to form the Ekumeku movement. The movement was a group of vigilantes sworn to an oath of secrecy who fought and resisted the colonial masters to protect their people. In strategizing to resist the British, the Anioma people quickly came to two conclusions. They could not face the British in direct combat because their weapons were far inferior to that of the whites, and they needed more numbers to have any hope of defeating the newcomers. This second conclusion led to the reconciliation and uniting of the Anioma people with the Igbo clan, settling their disputes which had lasted for decades and coming together to achieve a common goal: drive out the intruders. The Onitsha-Ado locals also joined this alliance. On the matter of combating the British, they resorted to using guerrilla techniques of stealth and camouflage, attacking in organized groups. This characterized the first phase of the Ekumeku movement, which lasted from 1883 to 1902. The attacks caught the British off guard and many officers were killed. In December 1902, the British launched a preemptive attack on the locals, razing down villages and towns using heavy firearms and throwing their leaders into prison. The massive expedition, which cost the Anioma kingdom the loss of many lives and property, was a blow to the Ekumeku, and for the next 2 years, 1,100 carriers. The Igbo warriors, of course, would not go down without a fight, as they resisted the advance of the white soldiers strongly. However, they were overpowered as their weapons were no match for the modern armory the British forces attacked with. There were several confrontations in the space of a month, and on December 24, 1901, the British army arrived at Arochukwu and invaded it. The following day, some of the Igbo natives regrouped and attacked the British forces from the north, in the hope that more natives would join in time. The battle turned fierce and lasted 4 days in and around the capital. On December 28, the capital finally fell, and the Ibini Ukpabi shrine of the Aro tribe was reportedly blown up with explosives. The British had seen several black rebellions in the past, but nothing would prepare them for one led by thousands of enraged African women in 1929. The preceding decade had seen them quell the Ekumeku rebellion shortly before the First World War. Yet again, the Africans would not relent, but this time it was the women's turn to resist the colonial master. As resistance to the colonial masters often ended, the streets of Abak and Okpobo flowed with female black blood. But let us not get ahead of ourselves. The genesis of the women's grievances with the British Igbos had been displaced in the north and would flee the region to the east where they originated from. In a bid to arrest the situation quickly, Ojukwu, representing the east, and Gowon, representing Nigeria, met in Aburi, Ghana, to sign the Aburi Accord following a series of negotiations. The consensus reached was that Nigeria would operate a less rigid federation. However, Gowon stalled in declaring the announcement officially and eventually cancelled the agreement. To further break the unity of the eastern states, Gowon announced the breaking up of Nigeria into 12 states on May 27, 1967, in which the eastern region was broken up into 3. Ojukwu's disapproval of Gowon's unfaithfulness to the Aburi Agreement and the development of the East being split into 3 was as clear as glass. 3 days later, On May 30, 1967, he went on to declare the independence of the eastern region from Nigeria, naming the seceded state the Republic of Biafra. Following this declaration, Gowon immediately ordered a blockade around the region to cut them off from supplies and provisions. However, for the next 30 days, nothing significant happened. On July 2, 1967, Gowon declared a police action in the east. 4 days later, on July 6, 1967, the Nigerian army marched into the Igbo-dominated territory, fired the first shot, and the war began. Both camps mobilized thousands of soldiers in the following months, and a back-and-forth attacking spree ensued. In October, the Nigerian army succeeded in capturing Enugu, the Biafran capital, with Ojukwu barely escaping. He relocated to Umuahia and set up the new capital there. Gowon's army kept advancing, but the federal troops were met with fierce resistance in some regions. However, Ojukwu's army, although supported by France, could not match the heavy artillery delivered by the Nigerian government allies, Great Britain and Russia. The Biafran War, which lasted for 30 months, led to the death and displacement of about 500,000 to 3 million Biafrans, mainly Igbos, and more people, mostly children, died of starvation rather than bullets or bombs as a result of the blockade. Eventually, in January 1970, seeing no way of winning the war anymore, Ojukwu fled Nigeria in his private jet and sought asylum in Ivory Coast. On January 15, 1970, Biafra officially surrendered to the Nigerian army, and Ojukwu's deputy, Philip Effiong, announced the end of Biafra as a sovereign nation. After the Biafran War and the subsequent reintegration into Nigeria, the Igbos were marginalized and given just £20 regardless of how much they had in their bank accounts before the war.